Joining me today is retired Colonel Clint Granger. And so, Colonel, so when I left, we talked to you. You jumped out of a helicopter and things didn't go so well, but somehow you ended up being in charge of people that put tanks out of helicopters and trucks or out of planes.
Well, not necessarily. You can't get a tank out of a helicopter too well.
A truck or a Jeep or...
You can do other things, yes, and indeed involved in even when we took the 173rd Airborne Brigade from Okinawa down to Taiwan and jumped with the Chinese. They didn't do very well. The winds were too high, but yeah, I learned a little more. But that was the last parachute jump before I decided it wasn't a very smart thing to do anymore.
You know, earlier you had said there were two reasons you walked with a limp. The one was the parachute jump.
Parachute. The other is I was wounded.
When were you wounded?
In the late part of Vietnam.
So, and at the very end?
No.
Your second
no,
tour? Or the
late part of my tour, which was the end of just about the time of the Tet Offensive.
And you know, and I know we've in earlier segments talked about the Tet Offensive, and I want to just sort of I don't want to get bogged down into that and talk about sort of other things. After that, you spent time in the White House.
3 years.
Do you have any stories around your time in the White House that really stand out?
Well, there are lots of stories you could tell.
And some that you probably legally can't tell.
Yeah, there's some you can't.
Is there something that stands out that you can tell?
Sure. The President Ford, not Nixon, though I served both, but Ford got to know me pretty well. And it was rather nice. Betty Ford was a nice lady. Well, she had her problems. Ford was a good guy. The kids were nice. And most of all, they had a wonderful dog named Liberty. And I used to play on the south lawn with the dog. I'd take a bag with tennis balls in, and if things got too dull, just go out and play with the dog for a while. So everything works out. White House is not as grim as it might be.
Do you ever have any issues with the Secret Service?
Yes, as a matter of fact.
I mean, I'm thinking somebody carrying a bag of something. What's in the bag?
Even worse.
Okay.
I was sitting quietly in my office, which was in the old executive office building just over the Vice President's office.
Was this with Nixon or with Ford?
This was with Ford.
Okay.
And banging, door open, a guy walks in and says, "You were out on your balcony," and there were little balconies outside overlooking the West Wing. Yeah, so I'm out looking outside. So you're not supposed to be out there. And we had a discussion. I wasn't supposed to be out there because then I could see the president come out of the West Wing, and then, yeah, they got to protect him. Okay, I understand. You're Secret Service. So I threw him out. But he came back. Then they objected, so we got into a dialogue. Okay, he would come and tell me, "You're not supposed to be out on the outside." I'm not outside, I'm looking out. Oh, well, what can you see? Well, I see a Secret Service guy up on top of that building. Now, he wasn't there before. I told you I could get somebody and get the president with a good rifle with a scope on it from the top of that building. And we went through then a period of weeks where guy would come by and I'd tell him another way that I could assassinate the president. That got to people standing on top of the White House and got to all kinds of things. And I think the funniest was at the end, I gave up after this. He said, "Nah, we've covered everything." No. If the president gets in his heavily armored car and drives out the main gate, he goes over a manhole cover. I'll bet there's a shaped charge under that manhole cover.
So,
Then I watched. Yeah, there's the Secret Service up prying up the manhole cover.
so it wasn't your official job, but you basically were a consultant to the Secret Service.
No, I wouldn't call it that. We just had fun together. But they got even. I had gone to the Pentagon one day, and I was in uniform, which made it even worse. And came trotting back for a meeting not in the Oval Office, but in the cabinet room nearby. And I said, Secret Service saw me coming, opened the door with a big smile, and I went charging in, saw a chair unoccupied at the end of the table, plunked down. Oh my God, it's the President and the Cabinet. Pardon me, sir. So the Secret Service got even.
So they have a sense of humor, too.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're out of time in this segment. We return.